This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Let me get a little controversial today on some subjects near and dear to all of us. I recently posted on my Facebook, quote, "People can criticize China's social credit system, but if there's not going to be privacy, guaranteed to be true soon, then I like rewarding good behavior and punishing bad. Or I can ponder the permissiveness that allows defecating on San Francisco streets after finishing up and in public in front of the kids, heroin shoot up." And I asked rhetorically, what is freedom again? So I got a bunch of feedback on that particular comment, not surprising. One of the first people said, "In theory, I agree. In practice, it would present an attractive way for politicians and even corporations to target opposition." Excuse me. That's already happening. That is America today. You say the wrong thing in America today, you are deplatformed. You are tossed off. You are excommunicated. Forever sent to the hinterland, to Siberia, so to speak. That exists right now. Somebody else responded, "Freedom without responsibility or respect is decay. Like a businessman removing too much money from his company for his vices, he harms his business and himself." And I replied, yes, exactly. Because true freedom is anarchy. If there are zero rules, we don't know if the libertarian ideal will work. I think the libertarian ideal will work if it is a group of like-minded Peter Thiels with respect for each other. No doubt about it. But everybody comes into their understanding at a different point in their life, or perhaps even a different point in their family generation, the lineage. Somebody in a particular family might not figure it out in this generation. They might not get it till the next generation. So if you can find that group of Peter Thiels where there is that mutual respect, hey, I'm all for it. That's the ideal. That's Atlas Shrugged. That's John Galt up in the mountain. But that was a small group that Ayn Rand wrote about. It wasn't a big group. It was a very tiny group because the vast majority of people were not ready to go there on that particular mindset that she wrote about so many decades ago. Of course, most of the feedback was a little bit anti-me. One gentleman wrote, "You're describing two extremes. China invading privacy while dictating behavior, and San Francisco allowing the inmates to run the asylum while handing out drug needles in the hundreds of thousands." I replied, "Look, big tech has invaded my privacy as invasively as possible, and they've also taken our main Bill of Rights freedom, the freedom of speech, and torched it." Now, if you're listening right now as an American and you don't understand that big tech has taken your freedom of speech and torched it, then you're just not up to speed. You're not paying attention. They haven't come for you yet. I guess that's what you're waiting for. Because the thought police are out there. If you say the wrong thing, if you say the wrong word, and trust me, there have been many situations, not necessarily on this podcast, but many situations where I would directly type something into a particular social media platform and I hesitate. Not hesitate because I don't have freedom of speech. Hesitate because there is an Orwellian presence somewhere in Silicon Valley reviewing my words, deciding whether or not my words meet the standard. What's the standard? Who the fuck knows? You know they're making the standard up as they go. Now, those of you with a libertarian perspective, and I had a great conversation with Walter Williams on this podcast about this very issue, and Walter Williams said, well, Michael, if you don't like the social media platforms, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, He basically just said, go build your own. Go do something new. Okay, but you know what? We're at monopoly now. We're at the monopoly stage right now. Where's the room for competition? These platforms have been given legal exemptions by the United States government. They're supposed to be acting like phone companies, letting us freely communicate whatever the hell we want to communicate. You know, AT&T doesn't listen to your call and cancel your service if you drop an F-bomb or if you say, I still think Bruce Jenner is a guy. And to further counter Walter Williams' view, and I love Walter Williams, he is one brilliant guy. But to further counter his view, Big Tech said to us all, come here, create content, do what you like, do what you will, create audiences, make big things happen. That was the promise. Then they changed the rules. They pulled the rug out. That's sort of fraud. Those are the competing perspectives. Walter Williams' perspective, hey, go build something new. The other perspective, hold on, we trusted what you said and you changed the rules on us. The feedback on my China post, though, kept coming. One gentleman said, freedom is the freedom to make bad choices, Michael. The price we pay for living in a free society is living with people who make shitty choices. I would far rather have defecating homeless than risk being whisked off to a secret prison in the middle of the night because I criticize the government. Now, for anybody out there that knows what happened after 9/11 in the American legal system inside Congress, well, you know what my response was. Look, of course, I don't want to go to a secret prison either. But did we not pass laws after 9/11 that allows the United States government to whisk any of us out of the country to black ops locales with no due process? That's not an exaggeration at all. You've never heard about that? That's not my problem. It's part of the law, my friends. That's the way it works. If you have been deemed by some secret court to be some type of deviant of some sort, no due process, United States citizen, on U.S. soil, you can be taken outside the country like that to a rendition location. That's life. Am I trying to say that China and the United States are exactly equal? No, I'm not trying to say that. But I am trying to say, don't tell me that everything going on inside the States is so peachy right now. Somebody else came back at me and said, yes, but who is defining good and bad behavior? I replied, someone behind the tree does the defining, and trusting the someone and trusting the tree will always be the issue. And I added my big picture point to this guy's comment. I said, at some stage, we all need to look at results and not just philosophy. Would I have said this like this a decade ago? Probably not. What do I mean? Results versus philosophy. For example, across Asia, benevolent dictators, I don't care the form of government, most Asian countries really don't allow for great participation. Even democracies are generally one-party countries. But what are the results? What do the countries look like? How have they developed? How have they accelerated? What do their cities look like? What does their infrastructure look like? Their buildings, their trains, their roads? Does everyone in Asia across all countries have the same perceived freedoms as we supposedly have in the States? Probably not. But you'll notice I just used the word supposedly. We don't have freedom of speech anymore. Freedom of association? That is connected to freedom of speech when it comes to the online world. If you are closely connected or perhaps add to a conversation from a very controversial character, you can be deplatformed immediately. And the deplatforming is connected. It's all connected. Major media and the social media platforms, big tech, they decide we want to take this particular person out and they take them out. That's how it works. Another guy came back and got into the details of the China social credit system. Posted an article how it's creepy. I replied, this is my point. If there will be no privacy, then we will know exactly who is doing what illegal in the U.S. in many instances. So will law enforcement have a special filter to apply to some and not others? This is the point that people weren't getting. Assume no privacy. If there's no privacy, that means we can see Bob over here shitting on the sidewalk, or we can see Bob stealing. So what do we do about it? Well, there's laws on the books that say both of those things are illegal. Do we enforce them? Do we enforce the laws uniformly? The social credit system is coming. At least in China, they're being upfront about it. Now, of course, there is absolute room for a social credit system to be used to a bad ends, to make bad things happen with it. One guy writes, who gets to define good behavior and bad behavior? In the U.S., people think you're evil if you produce a thing that people want and make a load of money in the process. And that gets back to my results point. One has to start to look at the culture, the society, the state, and say to themselves, even with all of the oversight, the regulation, the bureaucracy, where do people have true freedom with all of that? Just to immediately yell out the United States of America and the Bill of Rights is not good enough anymore. Not with what is going on across big tech. No way, no how. Everyone knows the censorship is in full steam right on ahead. Now, another guy comes in and he says, what you're describing is a solution that wouldn't help a certain problem. Homeless junkies couldn't care less what their social credit score is. That system would have no effect on them. We already have a system to punish bad behavior. It's called the rule of law. They just have to enforce the laws that are already there. But I came back to this guy and I said, look, the social credit score does more. It takes away things beyond personal freedom alone. The junkie's just one example. It could be whatever bad behavior. This same guy came back and he said, look, that's exactly the point many have made here, Michael. You have a centralized authority deciding whatever bad behavior is, like needing more toilet paper than your standard allotment, instead of obvious bad behavior of defecating on the street. That's not the kind of society I want to live in. I came back and I beat the point again. I said, look, we are going to have no privacy, which means no ambiguity about bad behavior and who does it. So when we know all the bad behavior due to a lack of privacy, how will the good actors feel? Compassionate to bad actors? Doubtful. We need to keep pondering what privacy, no privacy, means, and the accumulation of all that data that's going to come with no privacy. Now, one guy came back at me and he said, yes, people can criticize China's social credit system unless, of course, they happen to be in China. I replied, quite objectively, if you do the wrong thing in the United States of America, the social media system can deperson you. He came back and he said, well, we have the means to change that in America, not in China. We have the means? So far, we don't. What means do I have if I get deplatformed by big tech? I have zero means. This guy came back and he said, but at least we have free speech. I don't think he's been paying attention that closely because we clearly don't have free speech anymore. He came back and he said, look, it's still in the developing stage. Social media is still the Wild West. I say, come on. Social media is not the Wild West. The Wild West was when Netscape went public in 1995. We're not at the point of the Wild West anymore. We're at the full onslaught of monopoly. That's where we are. Let's just be honest about it. Now, monopoly in of itself is not a bad thing. It's not an illegal thing. It depends on how you use the monopoly. Now, of course, with a thread like this, they kept coming at me. One guy came at me and he said, Covel's lost his mind. Tyranny is tyranny. And who the hell is going to define good behavior? The government? Wake up, Covel, and use your critical skills that you had before. Well, as one ponders the conversation that I'm laying out right now, I hope like hell you think I'm using a little bit of critical thinking here. Because I am no longer going to sit here and pretend, guzzling the Kool-Aid, that America has this wonderful democracy where the voters can elect new people and freedom of speech is all the rage. Give me a break. If you actually believe that to be true, you're just in a haze. You've been drinking too much booze or something. I mean, it only takes a few clicks to look at the data to find out what's going on. Now, my last guy came at me and he said, look, the social credit system in China is more about social political control than purely good behavior. A classic Orwellian system designed to control thought as much as behavior. A lot more effective than the neighborhood political commissar spying and asking questions of your neighbors. The new digital commissar sees all and knows all, like the Telosians in the old Star Trek show. Good behavior will be rewarded. Bad behavior will be punished. It's an effective combination. And my last response, quite simple, and I'm beating the dead horse here by now, because this was the end of the thread. I said, but we are in la-la land to pretend that USA tech companies are not doing the same thing under the blessing of USA legal exemptions, because of course they are. So my point of this exercise, my point of running through this conversation, not to belabor it, I'm already there. I know what I'm dealing with. I'm trying to persuade you to maybe come over to my side and understand what you're dealing with. Now, the real question becomes, while we wait to see what happens next, what other shoe may drop? Because apparently there are bipartisan investigations brewing, antitrust investigations brewing in the states. Where those will shake out, who the hell knows? The deep state likes to be deep, and the deep state uses dollars to be oiled. And Silicon Valley's got a lot of dollars to keep the oil flowing. I mentioned her earlier in this episode, and I know some people have a revulsion to her, probably due to some deep-seated issue of not appreciating how damn smart she was. But it really would have been amazing to watch and to listen to an Ayn Rand deal with 2019, because she saw it all in advance, every last bit of it. Because you see, what's going on right now, not necessarily new for humanity. A few people acquire a lot of power. They paint some philosophy to keep the masses in line, and they just try to make fuck you money. Money that goes on forever. Vanderbilt, Carnegie, money. That's what's happening. And you know what? I don't think it's a bad thing. If somebody invents a great product, a great service like Google, for example, and those guys make a bloody fortune, I salute them. But now that a service like that is so intertwined in us, I just hope that we can all continue to have a voice. Actually, you know what? Let me stop that. I really don't care what happens with big tech. Because these debates, in some ways, they get old after a while. What would really interest me, much more so than this stuff, and by no means, because I'm about to go off on a tangent, and by no means am I saying that what I just said is not my 100% view, that it's not important. It is important. But you know, damn it, if they can figure out how to bring the dinosaurs back, if we can get to a Mad Max-like existence, damn, that would be fun, right? Give me the dinosaurs, give me Mad Max, give me a heavy dose of anarchy, something like a Bon Scott shrill in my brain nonstop. It'd be a hell of a lot more fun chasing dinosaurs out in the Mad Max wasteland, or I guess having dinosaurs chase us, than it would be to debate these issues. These issues that we all know, the very issues that I'm talking about today, we all know what direction they're going in. Which gets back to my point. There's going to be no privacy. If there's going to be no privacy, then what happens? That's what I'm asking everyone to imagine. At least until the dinosaurs and the Mad Max anarchy arrives, because that's what I'm really waiting for.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.